Hey guys, we are live. Check it out. Another solid opening. Good afternoon, guys. I got Greg Poole from Bulldawg Illustrated and Dog Out West, also known as Graham Coffey from dogsports.com. A lot of dogs we got going on. Greg is a good friend of mine who kind of kickstarted my little blogging career. And is a wealth of knowledge, a Blitnikoff voter, and runs the Bulldawg Illustrated website. But he's been blogging and talking and been in this community of dog fans since 2008 when he started the Leather Helmet blog. Greg, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Great to be here.
We're going to talk about a little nuance, offensive explosion of the new era of college football offensive and the prolific offenses. I mean, we've had Nicky Saban out there talking about it's the new way to go. He's not going to try to win 9 to 6 games anymore. He's going to exploit the rules that have a little bit been modified, and he's going to get the prolific runner passer Tua and Jalen Hurts and all that. So Greg, run us through this, and you're having watched this. I'm going to throw this word to you: evolution of athletics or of offense.
You say that because you know that's what got me researching this topic. But you guys probably remember a few years ago when we kept reading that UGA, or Kirby specifically, needed to join the modern age of football with his offense, and that offense had undergone an evolution in college football. The word kind of bothered me because I just didn't see it. I didn't see a slow change from one offensive scheme to another. As a matter of fact, it seemed to be almost sudden, at least in the upper levels of D1, and I think that's true. But I started looking for the origins of this change, and thinking about it, I came across one thing, and that was the change from the illegal lineman downfield rule. It changed from 1 yard to 3 yards. That is, an offensive lineman on a pass play can now be 3 yards downfield when the pass is thrown. Always before, as a matter of fact, 2008 and before, it had been 1 yard. And to me, that's the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, I've got a graph up right now that is, I'm going to throw in some of my little nerd stats and analytics, and Graham and I showed these to him, and it's interesting to show these in a linear scale as opposed to just a buttload of numbers on the screen, because this kind of shows you what you're talking about. This is my success rate of power. This is filtered out by Power 5 from 2001 to 2020, and this is the number. This is overall offense. All 65 teams in the Power 5, their success rate on offense. You can see that teams are hovering, sub 40% offensive pass success rate, and then just right around the same time you're talking about, Greg, it just shot up and is continuing to rise all the way up to almost 45% of offensive plays are successful now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's what I think happened. You can't, Josh. I've been looking for 2 months to try to prove this, right? and try to get you to help me find it, and you couldn't. So I knew if you couldn't find stats to prove this, I wasn't going to find them.
I think we're here. I mean,
Okay.
I think we really are. I mean, this,
yeah,
and
I agree.
I mean, here's now the pass play, same data, collection of data, and this is where in 2002, in the lowest, they were 37.5% successful on pass plays, and in 2013 they were 43% of offensive pass. Now this is the entire offense. So imagine the really good offenses. I mean, I didn't take the time to filter out some of these offenses because you know who they are. I mean, those are the ones that are setting this, and everyone's with them. Rising tide lifts all boats. And so, yes, I mean, here it is. It's a steady climb over the 20 years. Now, it is interesting that the evolution you say is not much evolution as it is just maybe the light switch of the downfield blocking rule. But and also I'll show this one last one and then we'll actually get into some plays. And this is all right. If you give me a second here, this is the EPA. Everyone either hates the stat or doesn't know it or knows it and hates it anyways. But the EPA is basically a grade on how successful a play is. And it's based on results of a play and down and distance and position on the field, right? And so it's used to calculate. This is an analytics thing, but you can still same upward trend, and you can really see it in 2000. This is maybe your point. 2012, 2013. It's a huge increase on how successful and efficient passing became in those. Really, at that point, there was a blip in 2005, but that is a clear indicator that the passing offensive has not evolved. It changed almost overnight.
Okay, let's say, excuse me, Graham, go on. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was going to ask you, you had referenced earlier the change from 1 yard to 3 yard in the NCAA rule book. You may have said it and I might have missed it, but what year did that happen?
That happened in 2009.
Okay. Because, I mean, for me, the offense that I most remember sort of taking advantage of this rule and like watching games on Saturday and just being like, some of these linemen are 4 to 8 yards downfield was 2013 Auburn in Malzahn's first year. And, you know, I mean, that last couple touchdowns they scored against Alabama in that Iron Bowl, you know, it was crazy. You know, you had linemen 5-6 yards downfield and the whole defense is biting on a run play. And all of a sudden Nick Marshall would rear up and throw it right before crossing the line of scrimmage. There
was definitely a lineman downfield on that play.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Saban said as much at some point that next offseason as he's wanted to do. But I guess, you know, my curiosity is, you know, I think you guys have some plays to show in here and stuff like that. But is there any of these sort of modern offenses over the last few years that you specifically think about that stand out on this rule, or do you think it's just a general problem across college football?
Yeah, well, I don't know it's a problem, but you know, I think
a defensive quarter, DC might feel differently, but continue.
Yeah, well, of course, but no, I think it's just kind of general across college football right now. Here's how I think it happened, and I certainly can't prove this, but when the rule came into effect, was Nick Saban or anybody else that was, you know, had successful programs, were they saying, oh, the rule changed, let's change everything we're doing and change our offense, and it's not going to happen, you know? So where does it change? It changed with smaller programs, with coordinators who could install the program at schools as an equalizer. You know, it's something to let us play with the Georgias and the Alabamas. You know, so but then as that was successful, the Auburns and the Georgias and Alabamas eventually adopted it, because if you can beat me with inferior players, I can beat you as I was before. All I got to do is change my offensive coordinator.
Well, here we go. We've got.
I may have changed my head coach.
Here's one of these plays that probably upset the aforementioned Nick Saban. Here we've got the 2013 Iron Bowl, and you highlighted this play, Greg, and you want to take us through this one?
Okay, I'm going to have to get my glasses on, but well, it doesn't go to the. I think it's the left guard. Yeah, right there. Watch him when Marshall releases. There's the line. Watch where he is.
Yeah, he's way down, 5-6 yards.
His foot is on the line. There's no question about it, and that's all you can see. It may have been that his shoulders over too, but
yeah, I may have had the wrong guy highlighted there, because I highlighted 67, but yeah, it's the dude right there, and he's way downfield. I highlighted the wrong guy.
Yeah, you can see him there, a full 5 yards down.
Yeah, the guy on the left though is eligible. He can be there.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha.
Okay. All right. The guy with the feet is the guy that's legal.
Yeah, and his whole body's over that line. I mean, and it's like, and I'm not gonna say it sprung this play, but it definitely, and also when like these guys are trained and coached to like when this happens that it's not a pass play, and then they change it totally that guy's they didn't need to worry about that guy because this was an illegal man downfield, but yet and this is right before the kick six, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and we've got that's not the one. Let me carry on. So here, keep somebody say.
Well, so I guess
here's an earlier play, and this is your Ole Miss play, Greg, and
okay.
And this one's, and again, it's kind of interesting because these plays are reviewed because they're looking at they're looking at if he threw the ball past the line of scrimmage, and it's funny. It's like they're not, and I don't know if that's a reviewable play or not, but this is clearly the same situation. You can see our cornerback or DB break towards the ball because he's like, okay, I don't have to worry about this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I do know for a fact that it's not reviewable illegal man downfield, which it really should be because it's not very well called in the college game. In the pros, you see linemen stay closer to home, I feel like. But
well, it's the 1 yard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I think it's 3 yards in the NFL now, but is it?
No, it's one. Yeah,
it's one. Okay. And that's again, why has the RPO taken over the NFL?
It has to a certain extent.
It's there. I'm not saying it's not there, but if those guys had this 3 yard rule, they wouldn't run anything else.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I think you guys have this on the outline here a little bit, but it's like as a defense, how do you adjust to some of this stuff? Is this why you think we've seen kind of the proliferation of the star and, like Iowa State in the Big 12 with their drop 8 defense has been kind of an anecdote to some of those sort of offensive schemes.
This is exactly what I talk about because when Greg sent me this play, this is like, how do you defend this? And it's like, right here, I mean, this lineman is just taking out 3 guys. What?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you defend this? And it's like, why would you, like you say, why would you not? I mean, that guy's way upfield, taking out 3 guys and taking those guys out of the play that could help out cover that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Greg, if we're willing to maybe say that we're not in a evolution of an offense, more of a dramatic change that signified a new era as opposed to an evolution, are the defenses evolving more in a traditional sense of growing and figuring out how to defend this? And as Georgia and Kirby and Lanning, are we ahead of the game in terms of how to defend it?
Yeah, I think they are. They're we'll see this year, won't we?
See game 1, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. But they have changed their defenses for it in terms of personnel. If you remember Georgia's Mike linebacker extraordinaire, we were talking about this earlier, Josh. Roquan Smith. Why was he so effective in this spread RPO era as a Mike linebacker? Well, he was fast. And is a good tackler, good pass defender, but they played him. Where did they play him? Think back about this. Were they playing him 3 yards from the line of scrimmage? No. It was usually 5 or 6. What does that do? That keeps the lineman off him. That lineman can still only go out 3 yards. And if I'm playing at 6, I got to read when he stops. I know what's coming. So.
That play in the Rose Bowl late in that game to keep, to stop that drive. And it wasn't, I don't think it was a downfield blocking play, but that new style linebacker, I mean, he flew down to the near side and took out that tunnel screen or that wide receiver screen and really, really saved the game. I mean, we don't get to OT without that if they convert that 3rd down.
Yeah. And so that's how they're playing defense against it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna pump you up here, and Bulldawg Illustrated has all the press conferences from the entire athletic department, and I listen to them all the time. So if please listen to him. But one of the coolest things I heard is after one of the spring practices, it was just a little nugget that Kirby talked about, and everyone was asking about the DBs, and he said, we're talking about who's going to play cornerback and who's going to play safety and all that. At that point, we didn't have Kendrick had not enrolled, and I think maybe Tyke Smith was. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. But he talked about the inside linebacker, and it's like when you're an inside backer, you're a star. When you're a star, you're inside backer. I mean, that tells you right there. This is not your Lawrence Taylor style linebacker play.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if you're looking at a guy, and we've discussed this on the show before, like if you're looking at a guy for Georgia's defense in 2021 who has the potential to kind of have that sort of Roquan style impact, that's moving sideline to sideline, making a lot of tackles, keeping 4-yard plays from being 8 and 10-yard plays, it's probably Tyke Smith. And he's not a linebacker, but that star kind of position functions much like that in a lot of situations, especially with a lot of the outside linebackers now playing with their hands in the dirt and kind of being that true edge position. That's the guy that is probably going to be freed up to make plays a lot of the time. So it's definitely just different within the last 4 or 5 years from that time with Roquan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I've got our DB tape that we got, so we've got some recruiting footage, but we're going to get to some of the guys that we're going to depend on to cover some of these plays. But while that rolls, so I mean, Lewis Cine, is he the guy that's going to be that star, or who's it? I mean,
that's Tyke.
Yeah, you think it's Tyke is going to be
yeah.
That is a dramatic change even from a Roquan body. And how we're going to do that. That's exciting.
Well, it is. And I mean, I think a lot of that is the need for, I mean, don't get me wrong, Roquan was extremely fast, but there's not many Roquan Smith types out there that are that big and that quick. But it's like, you got to have somebody with the speed to cover all of these slot wide receivers and all of these guys that are, kind of leaking out of the backfield and running backs and stuff like that. And it's like I think with Georgia in 2021, you'll see a lot more of what they call the money package internally, which is where they bring that 6th defensive back onto the field. And that's really where it broke down for Georgia in the Florida game last year. It wasn't always the Stokes and the Campbells getting beaten by, Pitts or some of those other big wide receivers they had, but it was the running backs coming out of the backfield that a Jermaine Johnson or a Nakobe Dean was struggling to cover 10, 15, 20 yards downfield. And so I think that's why you're going to see more and more some of these maybe 3-man fronts with 6 guys dropped back and a couple of linebackers, kind of patrolling. But it's tough because in a way it is sort of killing the linebacker position, and it's a disadvantage for Georgia because they've recruited that position so well. And it's just the amount of times you're going to see a traditional kind of Kirby Smart 3-4 defense on the field is very few at this point.
Evolution has killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it evolve or die? Or so I guess we're not going to touch the elephant in the room of like the quarterback play, and it's interesting that we've sort of talked about defensive, because that's clearly where where one of the obviously for every action there's an equal opposite reaction, and we're excited because we do have a defensive minded coach that it seems to be evolving and adapting, and I'm excited. In our spring or G-Day game with Senator Lutarski, Michael said, we haven't seen our DBs yet that are going to play in 2021. And, he also spoke about leaving some roster spots available after the signing day because he wants 6 to 8 guys that can be out there making these plays. And he's brought some guys in and he's recruited them. So, it's exciting to know that Kirby's ahead of it. Need wide receivers, he's going to go get wide receivers. Need more, linebackers that can play this, he goes and gets them. So I think we're in good hands from a defensive side of the ball.
Well, and I think what's interesting, and Josh, you may have some numbers that are different, but SEC StatCat the website that he does a really great job of getting up a lot of offensive scripts and a lot of breakdowns throughout the season. But if you look, last year for like the yearly RPO play share was only 19.77% for Georgia. So it's like Georgia really has some of those concepts, I'm sure, in their playbook, but Monken only installed 30%. That wasn't something they were doing a lot with Coley. So, I mean, like Georgia really hasn't probably fully taken advantage of some of the stuff with the RPO like they maybe could or should. And I would expect to see that this year with a Daniels who has a little more experience in decision-making.
We were talking about Daniels and RPOs, Josh and I was, before you got here, Graham, and that a bowl game last year, I was looking for RPOs in that game too, and it's very difficult sometimes to tell whether he's running a some kind of play action pass or it's a pre-read, or it's an RPO and he pre-read it, and so he just makes it a play action and throws. He's very decisive about those things, and you can see it in his performance.
Yeah, these are some of these plays I've pulled over the last couple of years, or actually 2019 and 2020, that were listed by StatCat as RPO, and Georgia didn't. There was not a lot to choose from, and that's why some of these plays are ho-hum. But my theory is, back in when Mark Richt and Mike Bobo we always sort of had the really traditional pro style drop back quarterback. And I'm wondering, is that carried over into this era where we're not going to necessarily run these RPOs? Because like you said, Greg, they're not running the prolific RPOs in the NFL. And this keeps us sort of in the hunt for some of these more, pro style players that want to come and play quarterback at Georgia. Is that a possibility or is it just, you go get the best guy you can and hopefully, find plays and make it work for him?
Yeah, I would assume it's possible, but it just doesn't sound like a theory I would want to endorse. I think, yeah.
All right.
Well, one thing I would say, one thing I would say though is like the Philadelphia Eagles, when they won the Super Bowl, I think in 17, maybe 18, they were using a lot of that RPO stuff, and they were sort of the first NFL offense to really implement that on a large amount of their downs. And they rode it to a Super Bowl, and then in one offseason, the rest of the NFL caught up, and it's like the defenses at the next level are able to evolve and catch up to these patterns so much faster. It's like Chip Kelly had 1 year in the NFL, put up a bunch of points, and after that, it was kind of over because everyone spent an offseason figuring out how to defend them. In college, you don't have that continuity on the roster. There's guys moving around all the time, and just the athletes on defense are not as good as they are at the pro level. And so I don't know, sort of when the tipping point will happen, but it's like we've seen in the Big 12, right? That used to be the league that we all made fun of for, being basketball on grass and everyone, putting up 70 points and having 5-hour games on Saturday afternoon. It was a pretty defensive dictated league last year. And there really wasn't a ton of those kind of traditional Texas Tech, Oklahoma type shootouts that you saw in the early 2010s and late 2000s. So, I think the evolution kind of always happens, and today it's RPO, and in a decade it'll be something else when things start to catch up. But I do think, kind of back to the original premise with the legal man downfield, if that's not enforced, it really is just, it's not fair at all for the defenses. And I think we've gotten to kind of that tipping point probably in college football where hopefully that's a point of emphasis going into the next season. Because, I mean, three yards is liberal on its own, but when you let 3 become 5, 6, it's impossible to read as a linebacker or a secondary player.
The thing to remember about enforcement is who calls it. In college, I forget which ref it is, but it's the same ref that's responsible for illegal man downfield is responsible for the quarterback being behind the line of scrimmage when he throws the ball. Tell me how that's possible.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah,
if you're watching the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage, you're not watching 3 yards downfield.
Well, and I mean, in the NFL, they keep that referee behind the quarterback, so that guy can see everything. And in college, he's over on the sideline.
Well, they moved him in college because.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, they moved him for safety reasons.
Which referee is it that calls face mask on DeAndre Swift in SEC championship games? I'm just wondering in that one because they didn't really do that one good either. Yeah. But no, well, that's exactly. I mean, and let's be real. I mean, NFL refereeing is probably at a higher caliber too.
Well, they're professionals, and the refs are. Aren't they? I mean, they are full.
They are. Yeah. No, they're full-time jobs. Yeah. And I mean, because of COVID last year and them trying to keep referee assignments closer to home, you had a guy that's a real estate agent in Tuscaloosa calling like a couple really crucial pass interference calls on Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell that kept drives alive. So it's definitely an issue. And the other thing too, though, is, I mean, there's the money there in the SEC to make those guys full-time professionals. The problem is that if they make them professionals, then like they may actually have to hold them accountable. They may actually have to like trot them out for, some sort of answer to some of these calls that they make. And the thing that's the most asinine, in my opinion, is just that we have a review system in place, but there's all these things that have become unreviewable. And I think like if it's like what is it? It's like explicit content or indecent content or whatever. Like, it when you see it. If you see something on a review and it's wrong, it should be able to be changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not sensical.
All right. Well, I'm going to pivot to July 1, 2021, a day that will live in infamy. But it appears that college, I saw the tweets, I'm not going to try to tell you how original, but the college football sky did not fall today. And players can profit off their name, image, and likeness. I'm gonna start by one thing, and it's like I think that it is. I'm not gonna tell you it's a mountain out of a molehill, but I think it's going to dramatically change more sports than football. I think football is an economy of its own. A lot of these players will be able to make some money and improve their experience in college, whether it's just putting money in their pocket for gas or pizza, or if it's legitimate money. Look at that. Thank you, my friend, FTMF. No, but I think the women in college sports will absolutely do really well with being able to whether it's the Olympic sports or whatever it is, whether it's just they're a pretty face or if they're just super talented at lacrosse or softball. I think there's going to be opportunities for them. Greg, how do you feel about name, image, and likeness in a nutshell? We're going to wrap it up, so we could do a whole show on it, but everyone's heard enough. But I just wanted to get y'all's opinions about it.
What can you feel? It's here. It's going to happen. There's no use to be against it. It's like being against the speed limit or something. I mean, it is. So, yeah. I mean, that's about all I have to say about it. I mean, I do think that this patchwork of NIL laws is crazy and won't work and is going to create all kinds of problems. So whenever Congress gets around to passing a federal law about the thing, it'll all kind of settle down. That's what I think about it.
No, I agree with that. It seems like states that don't have an NIL law are maybe at an advantage. The athletes in those states are probably at an advantage at this point over states that do. I think Ohio has a law in place where, like, once you come to a contractual agreement, nothing can happen for 2 weeks or something like that. So if a kid catches the winning touchdown pass against, Purdue or something, he can't make money off of that for a little while. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like, look, let's not pretend like college football or Georgia football in and of itself is not a $100 million industry. That the NCAA as a whole, college football as a whole, is a many billion-dollar industry. If these guys are able to shoot some tweets out for some extra money, or be on a billboard with the local exterminator. I mean, like I was in Athens as a college kid, and there's a ton of small local businesses there that would be so happy to partner with a UGA football player or another student athlete on campus. And so I think it's a good thing. And I think that, I don't think it's hurting anybody. I'll put it that way. When this was first discussed, there was a lot of people that thought, this is the death of college football. The thing that makes college football is that we're passionate, right? And the fans care. And so I don't think that's going to change this at all.
We're still capitalists, right?
Exactly. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a free market, and if they have value in that free market, then good on them. And I mean, I think what Josh said is spot on. That it seems like, at least here in the first, 16, 12, however many hours it's been of this thing, a lot of the athletes that are getting the biggest endorsements are outside of college football. There's, some female gymnast at LSU that I'm pretty sure just got like a giant modeling contract. Yeah,
Olivia Dunn.
Yeah.
Google it. No, we're still looking for the official DB of Dog Sports Live, are we not, Graham?
We are currently in discussions with some UGA football players to perhaps endorse the show.
And there's always room for the FTMF movement to have an official player. So
FTMF Industries definitely needs a pitch man.
You need to get Kirby in that.
Oh,
man, we're trying.
I think he would like it. Probably wouldn't wear it in public, but I think he would appreciate the spirit of it. He
should.
Yes, he should. That's my coach.
Yeah, totally.
All right, guys, this has been awesome. Greg, I hope we can do this again. I think you bring such great points, and please follow Greg at GP. What's your Twitter? I got it on the screen, but tell everybody your Twitter so you can get all your updates from Bulldawg Illustrated.
GPoole _BI.
GPoole _BI. Graham is at Dog Out West. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, our podcast. Please click on dogsports.com and bulldawgillustrated.com. These are great, all UGA, great content with writing and updates and blogs. And Greg has the Daily Dog thread, which is just a great community of dog fans. And we appreciate you guys tuning in and sharing our content. Graham, is there anything else you got for us today before we sign off?
No, sir. Go Dogs.
All right. Go Dogs. Thanks again, Greg.
Thank you,
Greg.